Pull-ups are one of my least favorite exercises. Have you ever gotten to the bottom of a pull-up where your arms are straight, elbows locked, and thought to yourself, how did I find myself here? Which direction is easier to go? Up or letting go of the bar and dropping down? We're used to letting go, especially if we're tired or distracted. Do you know that look your partner gives you? You know that one that says, hey, we need to talk, but I'm not sure if I want to start talking about it because we might start fighting about it. Well, in that situation, what are you going to do? Are you going to let go of the bar, or are you going to pull up? Hey everyone, it's Kit, and this is the Relationship Algorithm. Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be back for episode 2. But before we jump in, I wanted to just clear the deck of a little housekeeping. The Relationship Algorithm podcast is a part of Kinship for Couples, a company that makes digital courses and apps designed to help busy couples and parents prioritize and maintain their relationship today so they don't find themselves having grown apart down the road when it's too late. And you can find more at kinshipforcouples.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Kit@Kinship. All right, let's get into it. So the pull-up analogy is really one that I want to use when I talk about dealing with difficult situations. Because if you bring up difficult topics, you might start fighting with your spouse. If you ask your husband to go to therapy, it might feel like a punishment to him. When we bring up difficult topics to our partners, what I want to encourage is to imagine them, as you're about to bring this up, imagine them hanging from a pull-up bar. Now what you're asking them to do is, hey, can you do some pull-ups with me? And orienting like that really kind of brings into perspective the level of effort and focus that's required to have this conversation. And for us guys who feel like it's a punishment or it's an obligation to have tough talks or be able to engage in weighty emotional conversations, well, guys, I'm sorry, but this is sort of a childlike mentality that we're carrying forward. In other words, if you take something as simple as brushing your teeth and you're told, hey, you need to brush your teeth so you don't get cavities, you're not going to push back against that because it's just part of what you do. But it takes you back to a very childlike state where you're kind of pushing back against not wanting to do what you're being told that you need to do, yet you need to do it anyway. So in this case, it's very important that we all start with a fundamental decision that each of us have to make for ourselves, in that I am going to engage, I am going to brush my teeth, I am going to have this conversation because it's important to me, because I know it's important to the relationship. Not only do I dislike pull-ups as a physical exercise, but I also am not good at the emotional pull-up that I want to talk about today. On the other side of that coin, my wife is a professional emotional pull-up instructor. Literally. She can do this in her sleep. She can do them without thinking about it. She can do emotional pull-ups while carrying on a separate conversation. It is incredible for me to see because I can't get it. It looks exhausting. It feels exhausting just watching it. So with that in mind, if doing one pull-up is difficult, well, how much time do you think it would take to be able to do 20 pull-ups without stopping, both physically and emotionally? It is a large task. It is a big ask. For those of us who have never done one or have difficulty doing one, doing lots is a monumental ask. So what's the biggest thing you can do to get started? Well, like I hinted at earlier, it's a mindset, a mentality. Do you decide to put your relationship mental health up on a pedestal along with the other basic necessities to function in life, or won't you? If you don't, then you are leaving the consequences of that up to chance. Maybe you'll do a good job of maintaining your relationship without ever thinking about it or being intentional in any way. But perhaps you won't, and you'll find yourselves growing apart over the years. Who's to say, in your case, what it would be? But the general population of statistics don't lie. The good news is that you have choice and agency today. Tomorrow, you might not have that option open to you anymore. And I find that a great way to self-motivate. We can easily get motivated to be loss averse. If I offer someone a reward and they can rationalize it in some way that says, well, it's not a good enough prize, so I'm not going to take the challenge. But if I hand somebody a prize and threaten to take it away, they're much more likely to defend. So I ask myself and you, what might your marriage look like in 10 years if you do nothing different than what you're doing today? Here's the tricky part. There's not enough time in the day. If there was, we'd already be doing all the right things. But we're not, because we're already so busy. And that's true. You are incredibly busy. You do not get time off from being a parent. Work demands don't stop just because you did a really good job last quarter. Household chores certainly aren't going anywhere, and a new batch are coming around the corner next week. Where can you possibly fit in the time to prioritize your primary relationship, your marriage? Well, where do you fit in the other parts of your life that are required to function? Do you have a gym routine? Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a bedtime routine? Well, it turns out that if it's routine, you're going to do it. But if it's not routine, then push comes to shove, it's going to get left off. So the answer we're looking for is how to turn it, the it being relationship upkeep, into routine, into habit, so it does not require active thought or decision, so that it doesn't consume the precious brain calories and energy in order to occur. And I want to have an entire separate episode specifically dedicated to that concept and how to achieve it. But for today, let's leave it at, we need to find a way to adapt and move towards a habit and a routine, just like brushing your teeth, just like getting up in the morning and getting ready for work, just like packing school lunches, just like doing the laundry. These things happen automatically as part of our routine, and we're going to modify it so that your connection with yourself and your spouse is going to be part of that routine. And the result will be an incremental accumulation of positive connection. All right, so today's exercise, the emotional pull-up. But before we define what it is, let's take a moment to say that the goal here is form, not repetitions. Just like in the gym, it does you no good to practice half or quarter reps. You have to get through the full, correct motion in order to see the gains, in order to get the result, in order to build the habit. So, what qualifies as a full, correct form emotional pull-up? Well, it boils down to this. Can you listen to a conversation with your spouse about how they're feeling, about what they need, about what's on their mind? And can you do this with an openness? Can you do this with a curiosity? Can you do this without holding court, laying judgment? Can you be there and make them feel appreciated and heard and understood? That's the rep. Because if at the end of that conversation, they feel understood and they feel seen by you, that energy is going to come back around your direction. That's going to come up in the connection between the two of you. And that's what's going to start building a positive feedback loop that's going to bring you closer together than you have been. And it's going to propel you forward through the stress and the anxiety and the grind of everyday life as parents. So let me give you an example of how it can open up. My wife comes to me and says, "Hey, something's bothering me. I need to talk." All right, well, here's the decision point. Doing the pull-up versus letting go of the bar. Do I have the right mindset to listen? Yes, let's talk becomes, yes, I can listen to you. So she might tell me that she's feeling overwhelmed because she's behind on her work, can't find the time to make it back up because the extracurricular activities for the children. Or she might say something that hits closer to home. "Hey, I felt abandoned last night when you got up right after dinner and went straight to your computer while I had to finish putting away all the dishes and getting the kids ready for bed." Now, one of those conversations is going to be easier for you to have than the other, because one of them is look at a third party and say, "Hey, I can empathize. This was tricky. You had a hard day. You know I love you. I want to be there for you." And the other is, "Hey, I'm a little upset because me, did something wrong." And that could lead to some defensiveness. That can lead to some retaliation. That could lead to a number of things that come up for me that will take me out of the affect of listening, of holding and being present for my wife in this conversation. That's the strain on the emotional pull-up right there that's trying to break the form. Because as soon as I go into, "Well, I had a hard day. I was really busy. I had extra stuff I need to get done. Why couldn't you just handle the dishes? I did the dishes 2 nights ago." As soon as I begin that dance of a conversation, both agitated and combative, I'm no longer doing an emotional pull-up. I've let go of the bar. That's the easy way out. The difficult way is to complete the pull-up, which is to hold the fact that I might be feeling defensive or resentful or righteously justified at my behavior. All the while still hearing, listening, and holding what my wife has to say. Sound hard? Good, because it is. The content of the example isn't super important here, but what counts is, can you have the conversation without avoiding it, without pushing it away, or worse yet, escalating, retaliating, combating? If you can listen to everything she has to say and in return give her empathy and understanding, that counts as one emotional pull-up. So now that you know what it is, your homework is this. How hard is it to do one pull-up? And the answer might be, I couldn't do one. What I want you to do is, after you have that conversation, and it will come up, you don't have to force it. Tomorrow at the breakfast table, tomorrow at the dinner table, as you come or as you go, it's going to come up. And after you have that conversation, successfully or not, the homework is this. How do you feel? Are you exhausted? Do you feel the need to do something to settle back down or relax? Do you have the urge to open up Netflix or check your email, get on Instagram or grab a drink, ask yourself, how hard was that for me? Could you do another right now? Could you have another conversation? Could you do another emotional pull-up right now? And the answers to those questions will be very eye-opening. So each time the opportunity comes up to have an authentic listening conversation with your spouse, see if your body is up for it before and after. Were you able to do a full rep? Were you only able to do half a rep? This is the kind of information you need so that you can be honest with yourself about where you're starting. Because we know the long-term goal is we want to be able to have these conversations. We want to be able to listen and see our partner. And we don't want that to be so mentally exhausting, physically exhausting to us that we can't carry on afterwards. That's how we know we are, for lack of a better term, emotionally out of shape. And we want to get in shape so that the connection with our spouse, the priority that is our relationship, can be maintained. Now, like I've mentioned before, you don't go out on your first day ever to the gym, throw a bunch of heavy weights on the bar, and just crank it out. And that's okay. You're not supposed to. There's nothing wrong with not being able to do an emotional pull-up today. And there's nothing wrong with being mentally, physically, and emotionally drained after having a hard conversation about feelings. But now you have the knowledge that you're in a position to make a choice about how you want to proceed. And you're also in the mindset that taking care of your relationship and making it a priority is the right choice, and it's an easy one to make. That's all for this episode of The Relationship Algorithm. Next week, we get to discuss one of my simultaneously favorite and least favorite topics, emotional debris. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you liked it, or you have a question, or it piqued something in you, please hit me up on Instagram, Kit@Kinship. I'd love to hear from you. We're just getting started here. We've got a bunch of really great content lined up for you, and I'm hoping in the coming days that we'll have the corresponding website, show notes, and activity and exercise lists published on the web for everybody to consume, so stay tuned for that. Thank you again so much for listening. It means the world to me, and I can't wait till next time. See you next week.